need to fully understand what is informational text. So we've already gone over materials, and if you don't have all of these materials, please make sure you get them now because you will need them in just a moment. So what are text features? That's the first thing that we need to talk about with informational text. You guys weren't with me yesterday, so I'm going to show you something very quickly and then bring you back here. So informational text is just basically a type of text that teaches us something. And I have some examples of informational text, so let me show them to you. You guys are already familiar with informational text. I'm just using a really big word, but that's what it's called, okay? But I'm just using a word you might not have heard before, but you most certainly have seen informational text before. So, like, look right here. A newspaper is a type of informational text. Certainly, you've seen those before. Magazines are a type of informational text. Articles are a type of informational text, and even recipes, okay? Those are a type of informational text as well. Anytime someone writes something to teach you something, they are creating a piece of informational text. So let's go back to today. So as a part of informational text as well, they have certain what we like to call features. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, you might say, "Oh, I have a very beautiful smile." That's a feature that you have. You might say, "Oh, I have long hair." That's a feature that you have. You might say, "Oh, Miss Travis has really small ears." That's a feature that I have. This type of writing also has features. So text features are an important feature to anything that you read. You know, while you're reading, you're going to see titles, charts, photos, captions, headlines, bold or italicized print. Those are all text features. And here are some types of informational text features. We're going to see print features. We're going to see organizational aids, graphics, illustrations, and this science textbook right here has a variety of text features. You know, we see photos with captions. There are headings in red. Those headings are in red, okay? And I'm looking very closely. It's kind of hard to see. I don't see any bold words or italicized words, but I have another one that gives you a better idea of what I'm talking about. So these are nonfiction text features. You have bold print. So bold print is when the words are really dark. Sometimes you'll have colored text. Sometimes the words will be in different color to help it stand out more. Sometimes the words will be in italics. You'll have big text. The words will be larger than the other words. When it's in italics, it kind of looks like the words are like tilted to the side a little bit. You'll have diagrams. You'll have timelines. There will be words and it'll have yellow over the top of it. You'll have bullet points. These will be lists. Very important, you'll have an index. You'll have a table of contents, a glossary. There'll be graphs. And it's really important that I tell you guys that when I say that you have these nonfiction text features, that doesn't mean that every single piece of informational text, which informational is also nonfiction, it's real. That doesn't mean that every single time you have a reading that is nonfiction or informational, that doesn't mean it's going to have all of these things all the time. It just means that you might see these, but these are all nonfiction text features. If I open up to an article and I'm glancing at it, if I open up a piece of writing and I'm glancing at it, and I see, oh boy, it's got a map. oh boy, it's got a picture with the caption. Guess what? That means that I'm reading a nonfiction informational text most likely. I don't even have to read it to know that. And that's very important. It's very important that you get really comfortable with immediately looking at text and identifying it because it'll help you understand it. So this is the first thing that we are going to write into our reader's response notebook today. Make sure that you put today's date. Today is September the 22nd, 2020. It's also, for your information, it's also on the bottom right-hand corner of your computer. So the first thing that we are going to write into our reader's response journal is this vocabulary. And we need to talk about it a little bit. So we're going to be using the words key detail quite a bit when we're talking about nonfiction and we're talking about informational text. So a key detail is a word or phrase that helps us answer a question. A word or phrase that gives important information about an event, like who, what, when, where, or why. It is also a word or phrase that gives us a clue about the meaning of an unfamiliar or new word. I want you to go ahead and what we're going to be focusing on for this lesson. Our key details in a passage, so in writing, they help support the main idea. You know, they give the reader, so you and me, more information about the main idea. You know, when we're reading, we're trying to identify the main idea. You know, we're trying to identify what the author is trying to teach us. So sometimes it's really easy to figure out what the author wants us to know. And sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. But if we're really looking at those key details, then we can figure it out. And I included this picture because what are all of these people doing? Well, they are literally supporting this Egyptian queen as she's being carried to and fro, okay? So we've got to talk about structure again because it is important. And I'm not going to read this to you. What I'm going to say to you is this. This is the easiest way for you guys to understand. When you woke up this morning, you decided to put on clothing, right? You put on a shirt or you put on a sweater or you put on a dress. You put on clothing that would help you throughout the day. If I was going to a barbecue, I would not wear this long sleeve flannel shirt because it would be too hot. But I'm sitting in my house in the air conditioning and it's a little cold, so I put this flannel on. It's the same way with authors when they're writing, okay? They use different text structures to help us better understand what they're trying to teach us. And we have to eventually look at the text structure because the text structure helps us understand the main idea and it helps us understand what they're trying to teach us. So, if you could please draw one of these beautiful babies into your reader's response notebook because this is what we are going to be recording the information on as we read family traditions today. So my graphic organizer that I wrote, I didn't leave myself a lot of room in here, but please leave yourself enough room to write in each box. So you need 3 boxes. Your first box should say celebrating a new year. Your second box should say family get together. And your third box should say storytelling and dance. And this is a typo. It should actually say families get together. And give me a thumbs up when you are done writing those. Give yourself enough room, like write celebrating a new year and then skip like 5 or 6 lines because you'll be writing up under that. And then write families get together and skip 5 or 6 lines. And then write the last heading. Give yourself enough room under each one. And just give me a thumbs up when you're done writing and you're ready to get busy. Now we're into the meat of our lesson. Now we're really going to focus on connecting ideas in a text because the title of this text is Family Traditions. And the title most certainly does tell me a little bit about what the author's purpose is, right? We've been reading fiction about family traditions. You know, we read about family traditions when we read The Dreamcatcher, and we read about Peter having to share family traditions with his class and him not remembering any. And then his grandmother reminding him that, hey, we do have family traditions. That was a fiction text, though. And then we read another story that was fiction about family traditions. And that was Yoon and the Jade Bracelet. And we learned that in Korean culture, jade is very special and precious. So we've learned about traditions reading fiction, but now based on the title of this informational text, we are going to read about traditions, but we're not reading a story. This is an informational text. So if this is an informational text and the author is teaching us, and the title is Family Traditions, well, then what is the author going to be teaching us about? The author is going to be teaching us about family traditions. Okay, so we're going to be reading about family traditions, and that's what the author wants us to learn more about. I am going to read. So we are, you guys on your own, when you go do your independent work. So Hector, you were asking about your independent work earlier. So right now with me, we're going to be looking for key details under celebrating a new year. That's one heading. Do you guys see how on this first page of the text, celebrating a new year, do you see how the words are bigger than the other words? And you see how it's a different color? And you see how they're darker? Do you guys see that? The reason why it looks like that is because, again, this is an informational text, and that lets me know when the words are bigger and bold like that. That lets me know that that is what's called a heading. So that is a part, one part of this whole text. And that one part of this whole text is going to teach me something. Okay?